Good afternoon, everyone. Back again for another Friday with Post and Walters. We've got a guest and everything. Today is the 26th of July. We're hammering through the summer and heading into, well, let's see, football camp started, I think, this week, NFL camp here in Detroit. So we're all excited about that. I think they peaked last year, but we can talk about that at another time. AI is big. We've got some announcements in the industry about artificial intelligence and some of the OEMs doing some stuff. It's going to, between now and the end of the year, the election stuff is crazy nuts. I mean, just, well, it's politics, right? And people
off
say,
the wall.
don't talk politics and business, but holy moly, how can you not? No matter where you are on the line, it's like stuff is going like nuts. So yeah, it's good. We're back in the swing. Slow. We'll get into it. I think I want to ask you, how business is going, but it is the kind of the summertime thing that I'm picking up. On the artificial intelligence, got a lot of interesting little tidbits to go over. But let's see, John
Yes.
DiCarlo, you work in the same area as Art. I hear. Why don't you give us just a real quick thumbnail, who you are and what you do and what you like?
Sure. So I'm John. I've been in the copier industry now for 32 years. Started as a tech, carried a bag on analog machines, moved to digital, worked on, at the time Linear was rebranding everything. So I worked on Canons, I worked on Ricos, I worked on Panasonics, 3M, duplicators, pretty much everything. And as digital came out, I moved into technology, started hooking things up to networks, and I liked it, and moved on from there. Went from dealer to direct dealer support to dealer. So I'm back where I started, actually, with Stratix.
Well,
Good
that's
things
cool.
come around.
I do. Yes, absolutely.
Cool. Art, what's new with you?
Not much. Been a little slow. I wrote a blog the other day what my second half of the year looks like. And I put some blame on me because I took my eye off the ball on, just seeing what the lease upgrades would be, or what's the potential for the second half. And there's not much potential unless I get out and start knocking on doors again.
Well, such is the
So
life. You've never been there before.
no, yeah, it's nothing new, but you get to a certain age where it's like, okay, got to do it again. So I'm almost treating it as a competition, right?
Okay.
So hey, all right, get your ass up and let's do it for one more year, right?
One more year.
Let's put the nose to the grindstone. Well, for
One
me,
more
it's going to
day.
be probably more years after that, but at least for the next 6 months, I say, okay, got to change up the way I've been doing things. First half has been excellent. So I spoke about need and want, right?
Yep.
What you want isn't always what you'll get, but when you need something, well, that's a different story, right? I need to pay my bills. I need to make sure the wife is happy. I need to get, I just need to survive. So need gives you that extra, how can I say, that extra juice of energy to go out and make sure it happens. There we go.
Yep. I just mentioned that song earlier this week to somebody, was it the Stones, right? Can't always get what you want. But if you, that line is excellent. So all right, cool, Art. John, you're in tech. Boy, this could be a huge question or a huge answer. What's new in tech, John?
Oh my goodness. So I moved. So it took 10 years, but I moved out of hardware to software. So I work mostly with software now. Anything that touches the copier, from the scanning perspective, printing, all that kind of stuff. New stuff, AI is hot. AI is hot everywhere. The promise of AI is always greater than what AI ultimately delivers. But there's some new stuff that's coming around on specifically on the front end scanning side.
Okay.
On copiers or scan devices, scanners too.
Right.
That I tell you, will make my job much easier and give you a much more, I think, better product. Hopefully, when it all shakes out. I don't think it's ready yet. There's some stuff that it can do is really neat stuff, but you know, when the rubber hits the road is where we got to see whether it delivers on its promise.
Right, right. So it's interesting. So, you know, AI washing is a thing, all right, and high expectations versus reality, that's a thing. It's reminiscent to me of the old the MPS movement, right? Management services. It was a big deal, all right. It was at first, and there was a lot of hype. Well, in our industry, right? You know,
Sure.
it's not.
Oh yeah.
Not as permeable as or as big as AI is. But then talking specifically, because Art and I had who do we have on Art with the scanning? We had a scanning person on who was talking about the Kodak. Yeah, Bill
Kohler.
And you know, so scanning and what I would say, digesting data off of paper into digital, right? Especially with AI. And because you've been in it for your seasons at this, seriously, what's the difference between what AI can bring to the scan table now versus Panasonic's DSpeckle and OCR through HP's Edgeline, 10, 15 years ago?
Sure. So the biggest difference is the way I see it. The biggest difference with what AI can bring is the prep necessary on the user side.
Okay.
Right. So if I have a stack of documents, right? I'm going to put them in a scanner. I want to press a button and I want magic to happen. You know what I mean? I want that system to look at each page, recognize it, separate it, pull data off of it, put it where it needs to go, make it easy to find, the whole 9 yards, right? Well, that takes effort. That magic takes effort. It also takes money. What AI brings is an easier way for me to tell the software, this is what the first page looks like of this kind of document. And when you see it, you know that that's the first page of a new document. You split everything before it and everything after it is part of that document until it sees the first page of another new document. That training piece is where AI shines.
Okay.
Because AI, you can tell AI to look at what a document contains, like regular OCR, right? I'm OCRing it, and I know that on the first page of my invoice, on the top left corner, there's always going to be a barcode, and just use the barcode to separate. Right. Well, what if I don't have a barcode? What if the first page looks different?
Right.
With AI, I can say, look at a document and show me similar documents, train it with multiple pages, and it learns what an invoice looks like, and it knows what that first page looks like. So from my standpoint, my effort is less if I can feed it, 100 examples of an invoice. After 100 times, it's going to know what an invoice looks like.
Okay.
And it's going to know what information I need, and it's going to know how to put it, where to put it, what to do with it.
Okay. So the magic that you described, right?
Yeah.
Put it in, garbage disposal in, out, it goes to wherever. That was always a deliverable. The end result was always something that we would talk about. I think the last big project I did was with Documentum. Are they still around? Is Documentum still a
Documentum? I haven't heard Documentum for ages, but I mean, it might still be around. Sure. I mean, there's a lot of different document.
Boy, it might have been, 4 or 5 years ago now. Okay. Regardless, but the whole, there was a real uphill battle and challenge to train it, quote unquote. And this is all the way back from zone scanning to whatever and all that. And then whenever that new invoice that came through the system had to be, quote, trained or whatever.
Got to retrain it, right? Yeah, something new comes along, it doesn't know what to do with it. Sure.
Right. So I guess what you're saying is the AI, and the light bulb went off in my head just now, is that, okay, it will know, no matter what you throw at it, that it's an invoice.
Yes.
Or it will know that it's a purchase order or whatever comes through. And it didn't take 90 days to train the system to recognize it. Right. And if something new comes along, it's going to pick it up.
Sure. Because I'm not giving it the rules. I'm giving it what I like. I'm giving it what I need, and it's figuring out those rules and delivering what I'm looking for. You know, that's the magic part. That's where AI really shines.
Interesting. Yeah. John, do you think AI will reside on the hardware, or it will reside in the cloud?
For now,
to work with MFPs.
Yeah. For now, it won't ever reside on the hardware, as far as I'm concerned. There's just not enough horsepower. AI is really hard. Okay. For example, I'm working with one of the pieces of software that we sell, and it's with a doctor's office, and I'm reading patient charts, right? Doctor wants all the patient visits separated based on what type of visit, and each type of visit has its own, first page. I'm feeding it about 120 pages, which is one chart. There's maybe 25 different files in there. It's taking a solid 20 minutes to figure out what to split those documents apart. Solid 20 minutes on a decent laptop with all the processors and horsepower and memory I can throw at it. Okay. And yeah, a copier just will never be that powerful.
Got it. So that that software that you're using right now is you could call it on-premise because it's residing on the notebook, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So do you think since that does take so long that the cloud would be offer more horsepower, faster processing?
Potentially, yeah, absolutely. So we take that same scan, instead of processing it locally, we scan it, compress it, encrypt it, send it up to the cloud, and let this big, data center somewhere chew on it. Absolutely. And then send back into our cloud repository, our document management system, ERP system, whatever it is, send it back to us, ready to go. Absolutely.
So is that system you're talking about now, is that a new gen or is it new gen AI, or is it old mechanical machine learning? Or
it's a little bit of both.
Okay.
It's a little bit of both. I'm using, in this case, these samples that we have are horrible, very skewed, very distorted, just really, really poor quality. The AI part is prepping the document first. Once it, and it's an amazing change between what I started with what it gives me. It processes the image, then I'm applying, it's kind of zonal OCR, but it's looking at a page for a sequence of words.
Okay.
This particular document has these words, this particular document has these words in the same zone. And it's going through and comparing them. And that's probably a little bit old school, but it's the AI part in this case is the image prep.
Okay. All right. Is that a Xerox solution by any chance? Not to pitch anyone, but I'm just curious as to
should I say the name of the software? Sure. I don't want to, I don't know what the rules are here.
Nope. There are none.
Okay. So it's Umango is the name of the front end.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And it's sold, it's resold by the vendor that we buy paper cut from.
Okay.
So the engineering on their end is doing the because it's not just splitting a document. There's a lot of processing after it that needs done, which is all custom scripting, which is what they're doing now. Because the doctor wants all of those visit types. Now I have 26 files. Well, a third of them are, well patient visits. A third of them are issues. He wants all those document types compressed and put into one file. So when the doctor's in there, they can very quickly pick up that file and list all those previous visits in sequence because they're all put together. So there's a lot of logic and processing at the back end that my EcoPrinQ guy is doing.
Do you see any time? I mean, that's historic. Do Do you see when that the intake process would change because of AI as opposed to converting
Yeah.
existing flows and
Yeah. So there's a new product that DocuWare bought, a company out of Germany.
DocuWare? That's it.
DocuWare is our document management solution. That's what we sell and service and support. They bought a company out of Germany, very small startup,
Mm-hmm.
very heavily AI focused.
Okay.
And once it's not really integrated into the product yet. I'm using it just as kind of a trial, just to see what it. But I gotta tell you, what took me, a couple of days to set up in Umango, I could have done in a couple hours in this new product. It is amazing. You basically, honestly, you just feed it a bunch of documents. You say where to split, and it knows them. So it is really cool. It is really, I'm very excited for it. It's not, it's probably 6 months out before it'll be very well integrated into the application. And I mean, you're familiar, Greg, you're familiar with document management, how you can train a.
Oh yeah.
Right. Okay. It is as big a step beyond what you can do with that, going from manually typing in fields into an older system that traditionally we used to do. So it is really cool, and I'm very much looking forward to it. It is a revolutionary step
too. Yeah. Hey, when you talk AI, are they using an AI engine? Is it more LLM based? How does that structure work? What is that? Is it?
I'm not 100% sure, honestly. Okay. I know in the system, you just give it it wants a lot of examples, like hundreds of examples.
You're training it. Okay.
To train.
Okay.
I don't have that, so I'm assuming it's a LLM, large language model based training. It does not crowdsource, so I'm not pulling in documents from the whole world to see similarities. I know some applications do that. So it is only based on that what you train it, and that's it. So
interesting. Cool. Interesting. Hey, Neal, I'm sorry, Kevin, you've been listening to us for a while. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so this is an interesting discussion. This is really awesome. Hi, Greg, Art. Hey, John, nice meeting you.
Good to meet you.
I think John nailed it. I think AI, like document classification and extraction, is a step forward and a great use case for AI, because I have a document capture background where legacy systems, you had to do zonal, kind of stuff to classify documents, to extract the data. And yeah, training those templates or training those batch classes took a lot of work. It took like a trained engineer that had to go to a week's worth of training, and then they would teach other people. And it was really an art form, right? And bada bing, right? That's art form. But it took that, and you had the sample documents that you're talking about, like to John's point, you had to scan at 300 DPI, a very specific resolution in grayscale or bitonal. So if you introduced a sample that might have been the same exact document but a different resolution or in color, then the software didn't even recognize it. Right? So AI is so forgiving that if it was printed out at 80% or 120%, right? So it just knows, and so you can create these cool model. It needs less of a training set. I mean, even John said, you still need quite a few samples, but considerably less. I mean, I remember places I worked, we were asking for thousands and thousands, and that's hard to get all these samples.
I agree. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. And the last project I was in was a DocuWare. It wasn't Documentum, but that was Documentum. I think was back when Icon days. But it was DocuWare with a property management system, but 14 different properties, 11 different software packages, 3 different service, whatever, maintenance entry systems, multiple ways to get the information, pager, email, telephone, and it was 6 to 8 months of implementation. And that was maybe 10% of the solution, and you're right. We had an engineer, and he was good. He was very good. but it took a long time. So what I'm hearing is, and I like it, is that the impact, the use case here is on the implementation side of it, right? Although I hear the deliverables, I hear the message, I hear the value prop. It's to me, because I was getting, all right, well, we've been saying the same thing, and I know that it does, quote unquote, does the same thing, but now it doesn't take 12 months to set it up and put it in. I mean, right? Am I catching it?
Yeah, I absolutely. I think it will
Wow.
definitely shorten the learning curve. Yeah. Yeah.
But it makes so much sense. I think about it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's going to be more and more like a human operator, and I'm just more and more, not a human, but like looking at it, we instinctively know that it's a PO, an order entry. You know, okay, that goes in this pile, this goes in that pile, that goes. You know, that's something we do naturally. So, all right, cool. That's really cool.
I think that's an important concept, Greg, is that we've had to train people to think like documents, and now it's completely backwards, right? We shouldn't have to think like documents. The computer system should understand like humans, right? Just look at a piece of paper. This is a receipt and this is an invoice. They're clearly different, but to the computer, they don't know, right?
Right.
So with AI and histograms and different kinds of technologies, it can learn these, and you know, even exceptions, it can learn from exceptions with machine learning, right? So even errors are good because you can teach the system to learn from it and become smarter over time. So as you introduce an unknown document type, it learns from it, and then it reinforces that learning in the AI. And guess what? Your system gets infinitely smarter, like you know, to take over the world, like Skynet.
Yeah, perfect. Well, I was going to say you kind of swerved into it because that is the AI story, not just with documents. That's with everything. And by everything, I mean everything. Right. That's where AI, and this is what I love about the industry is like we're talking about almost a mundane functionality, right? Take this to a party, a Thanksgiving Day dinner, and start talking about processing invoices and
boring,
right? Yeah.
I mean, there's no sizzle.
Or color copiers versus black, you know, even that, or when they analog to digital stuff that we go, oh, that's cool. Tell me more. But now, but we were always there at the cutting edge.
However, you talk about copiers and whether they're going to be embedded or whether it's going to be cloud-based connections, MFPs with AI, subscription-based, where the rep doesn't have to know as much. We've just got an IA-based system that can, you know, basically change the way you've been doing everything,
right,
and save you oodles of cash. To me, it's almost we're back to 20 years ago when we started with the first digital color copiers.
I remember those. I worked on those.
There you go.
Similar, yeah. It's
similar. I mean, everybody, you know, there was that reflective point where everybody said, "Hey, you know what? 85% of the world, we've got to go with color. We need to have color." And I think with Xerox's press release from yesterday saying they did AI assisted in their new AltaLink, I think the rest of the industry is going to be very fast to follow with something.
Yeah, I don't know what that is, Art. What is that?
So I can read you a little excerpt from the press release before I get past all the fluff.
Unless either one of you two know.
I was going to ask the same thing.
So they've got a new class MFP uses AI assisted technology to securely automate repetitive and complex tasks and adapt to the business's evolving workplace needs. Blah 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 blah. Another one goes into AltaLink's series also includes Xerox adaptive learning that utilizes AI-based algorithms to analyze usage patterns, learning from the user behavior, and automatically adjust device settings to streamline workflows for everyday tasks.
Yeah, that's probably what John was talking about. The image enhancement will be dynamically adjusted based on the use case. You know, if I'm scanning this kind, so it's kind of like VRS used to be.
Yes. VRS.
What was VRS?
Virtual rescan from Kofax. It was so popular with document scanner companies because it did that dynamic adjustment.
So if I remember that correctly, the only way you could connect that scanner to the network was through a SCSI port.
Oh yeah.
It was
Yeah.
scuzzy.
Back in the day, that was the only thing that was
Scuzzy.
fast enough. That was the only thing that could move that much data.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The VRS, you had to have a SCSI board. You had to have but I tell you what, it did some amazing things.
Yeah.
You couldn't.
They had specific adrenaline boards, and then you had adrenaline cables. So everything was proprietary just to move an image from the scanner to your system.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
That's
here's just one more sentence. AlphaLink series with a comprehensive approach that includes AI assisted tools and strategic partnerships, robust integrations, collaborating with Trellix and Cisco. And that's about with integration with leading security information and event management. That's about all I got out of this.
interesting. Well,
Yeah. We'll see.
you have to
But
see
I-
what it does to
Yeah.
see whether it's really AI. I mean, that's a buzzword being thrown around a lot these days.
I understand that, but I do believe this lets the horses out of the gate, right?
Sure.
Because
You got it.
sales wise, it's a great buzzword.
Yeah. You got to start somewhere. But you see the other day at NASDAQ, I think it shedded $1 trillion worth of market capitalization because so many companies are spending on AI and the revenue's not there yet. I mean, like anything, like the technology needs to be invested, and AI is very expensive to run the infrastructure, do all the design. And it seems like the investor community is kind of impatient. They want revenues now before the technology is quite ready. So it does have promise, but it's like John said earlier. I think he said, it's kind of not ready yet, or I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it's good for.
It's not quite there.
That's
Not ready for prime time.
Not ready. Not quite ready for prime time.
There's really good use cases for it, but everybody talks about LLMs and this and this. And so I put out some surveys on LinkedIn here, asking some kind of really probative questions, like, is in your in designing your LLMs, what's most important? I just put out 4 questions. I said, is it the volume of data? Is it the variety of data? Is it clean data? Or is it security of data, or something like that? But I got overwhelming. I was surprised, and I intentionally put the cleanliness or sanitize of clean data as number 3, because usually people just click the first one. And I thought volume would have been the logical answer, but it wasn't. Almost everybody, like 75%, 80% said clean data. So when it comes to us in the capture business and the scanning business, right? We don't want a bunch of crap, information coming in, because you pollute your database, right, whether it's your document management system or your LLM. So if you're creating this database, right, you want clean data first, right? It's more important than the volume, the variety, than anything. So the point of that survey was that people are taking their time to maybe a year ago that, let's just do this really quick. But people are carefully considering their taxonomies and cleaning their data before it goes into their system. So I was really encouraged to see that. And that's my unofficial kind of survey, but people that are really doing enterprise projects, they really are paying attention to this, because they know it's important. They know there's hidden gems in their data, to get the corpus in. So they want to scan everything and index everything and all that kind of, and classify everything. So once they get there, then they can slice and dice the data however they want. But, we're still in such early days. People need to get everything digitized and indexed first before you can actually start using it.
Exactly.
Well, do you guys ever think that, I mean, if, like, sort of when you're talking about scanning in images that aren't perfect, right? And the AI can handle that. So, and forgive me if I'm making this very elementary, that particular scanned or that has mistakes on it is a piece of garbage data per se. Let's just call it that. But the AI can recognize it and make adjustments for that. Won't the day come when an AI can take a look at a database, and instead of us all trying to humanly index it and cleanse it, can't the AI cleanse the data?
Well, if I'm looking at a scanned document and I can't tell whether it's a 3 or an 8.
Okay.
How would I want to rely on AI to make that decision? Probably not. In other words, if it's that bad, I can't tell what it is, then I would have to go back to the original source data for anything to tell me what the right answer is. If I
Could
can't
I,
look at it and,
right,
you know what I
and I
mean?
understand, and that's a human process.
Yeah.
Could that process be thrown into AI? Because what you would just do, right? What we would do is, well, okay, I got to go back to the original. Can't the AI say this doesn't hit or what? And I'm making this up, right? But
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
let's go back to the original and see if I can glean something out of that, duplicating or replicating the human process that you were going to go through. I mean, I'm stretching it, but and I have a method to my madness. But what do you guys think about all that crazy
So
stuff?
would the AI reach out to the person who
Oh gosh, I
procured
didn't
the
think
data and
That's a good
said,
idea.
hey, we've got a, we've got a question on this data. You know,
Oh, I didn't even think about that, Art. Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
That's a
Good.
human in the loop kind of process. That's a good
Right.
idea. But there's nobody that knows the source document better than the person that actually has it and contributed. So
Right. But do you send does the AI send a fax back to the person who faxed you that piece of that spreadsheet and you can't read it and say, hey, could you please email this to the original to me, or at least fax it with a higher resolution? You know, I don't know, maybe.
I don't know, but yeah, I see that's
how about AI just calls you?
Where's it? Yeah, exactly. Where's it come from? You know?
Oh my God, I didn't even think about that. So have you guys heard of this thing? I just started reading about model collapse. Do you know what that is? So the way I look at it, it's like when the olden days, you take a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy, and it
Next
degrades.
gen, next gen, next
Right,
gen.
right. It fades out. That's same. The basic idea with AI is once, because they're talking about running out of data to train AI, and it's starting to bubble up that people are kind of concerned about that. Now, to me, that's way out there. But regardless, they're saying that next the AI will train itself on synthetic data that they create, but over time the data will become terrible and the results will just be a bunch of mush because we just duplicated, rehashed over synthetic data.
I think to some extent that's happening now with ChatGPT and with the the AIs that are available to the general public, because sometimes they just make that shit up.
Well, yeah, they do.
It's not based on anything. It learned a certain way, however that that voodoo that happens behind the cover of those computers, it happened, and they've made up their own data and they're going to go with it.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
You're right, John.
Interesting.
You're right. It was getting worse. That's why that's why, like I said, maybe a year or two, people were like just going crazy and just bringing all their data in. And then they're like, whoops, we're discovering it. So now they're like, okay, let's get clean data in. So maybe that's why this spurned it. But it's right. If you're learning from garbage, you're going to have garbage.
Exactly.
And Greg, to your point, I think you're right. Once you get a clean corpus, I think your data can learn from your data. So things like John said, right? An 8 in the middle of a word, that where an A, it should be a B. And dirty little trick in OCR is OCR kind of used AI way back when still. Like there's no logical reason an 8 should be in this word, right? Like begin, right? It shouldn't be an 8 at the before EGAN, right? So there's logic. There was this kind of brute force, but you can call it AI, whatever.
Well,
but if you can if you could correct those kind of characters, and you could correct words, because this word, the shouldn't be together, right? It should be a different word. So if you start cleaning the characters through AI, and then the words through AI, and then the associated words, and then the sentences, and then the paragraphs, and then contextually, the meaning of so if you keep building upon that, and you have a smart kind of system that can think like a human and with natural language, then that's what an LLM to me. At the end of the day,
LLM. Yeah. Pattern. Yep. It's really good at that kind of stuff.
So I recently noticed that ChatGPT was actually putting its URLs in for its sources.
Yeah, there you go.
Which I thought was nice. Interesting. And then of course I could go to that URL and verify at least what ChatGPT is giving me.
I can say that part of all of the LLMs has gotten better, right? I mean, I remember when there were links and the links were made up. It's like, that did not exist. It's like, okay, great.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but that's cleaned up a lot within the last 8 to 12 months. It seriously has.
Yeah.
Perplexity is probably one of the best at it. I've been fooling around with Meta, but they're all starting to cite their sources. But I'm like really gun shy because seriously, I would go out to these URLs that didn't exist. Like, so now I'm always sure. All right, let's go see. And
So-
yeah, go ahead, Art.
All right. So Kevin, how does the Twain Working Group play into this? Everything we've been talking about, since scanners are going to be that input.
So yeah, so it goes back to what John said earlier. You asked about like putting stuff on a chip, in hardware or in the cloud. So we just had a press release, I think, Art, you shared it, about RISC-V processors. I had no idea there's 10 billion RISC-V processors, an open source technology where you could put technology on a chip. So we talked about the image processing on a chip,
Right.
but the Twain Direct protocol, because it's just a small, lightweight thing, could be put on a chip. Multi-factor authentication could be put on a chip,
Yeah.
or an LLM model, like John said, like if you're like very broad, it's a big engine. But if you're doing maybe classification on invoices, you can create a LLM and maybe host it on a chip, maybe not a low power chip, but these RISC processors, you can get one that's decent. And you could do edge computing where you're doing the processing, at least the classification portion of it on premise, and because cloud's great, yeah, but you still have to negotiate networks, and sometimes people have slow networks, or the network's down, or whatever, or they're big files, whatever the case, especially images, right? So if you could do something like image processing classification on the hardware, and then do the rest on the cloud, that's cool. So Art, to answer your question, we're doing things like that. We're thinking about putting some of our technologies, but some of our complementary technologies into hardware. We're also focused on, we just talked about sources for your content, right? So citing sources. We think this is really important for scanned images. So we're working with organizations like C2PA, which is backed by Sony, Canon, Adobe, Microsoft, where they put content credentials inside the digital content. It could be images, it could be videos, audios, but you just have a little content credentials. You clicked on it, it says, oh, it's created by John on this application, this date, this time. It just gives you some kind of evidence who was the creator. And we think that's really important. I think we've talked about this before, is that like I trusted content a couple of years ago just by default. Anything that was on my Facebook, LinkedIn, I didn't really question it. But now I'm always like, oh, is that created by Gen AI, right? Is Katy Perry really at this thing? Did Kate Middleton Photoshop her family photo? Like, some things really aren't that critically important.
Yeah.
But other cases, people creating fake waybills to steal millions of dollars of gold bars, and creating fake airline certificates, that because you rely on the certificate, not checking the parts themselves. It's very dangerous for content authenticity. So that's a long-winded answer of saying, Art, we're going to have Developers Day in November. I think you're a sponsor, and Greg and Art, hopefully you're there. So we'll be showing all this stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be there.
Okay, great.
Well, it's very interesting you mentioned the RISC chips and AI chips in general, right? Because that was a talk track not that long ago. I think HP and Dell, well, yeah, NVIDIA, they were all talking about the new chips would mean that new laptops would have to come out and a whole new refresh on the universal fleet, which would be crazy. But wow, yeah, that's very interesting.
Yeah, cool. And risk being open source, right? I could do it. I can go buy a cheapo chip on Amazon, and there's something called ISA architecture, open source. If you just compile it the right way, put it on a chip. So you can imagine the possibilities are really to use this kind of low price technology, but use it in a very creative ways. So I'm bullish on the future is my point.
Yeah, and that brings up like what Art was talking about, and whoever brought up, I think the NASDAQ losing all that money or value because the ROI hasn't been there, and that's been a difficult thing for people who are trying to sell stuff. How do we sell AI? And AI is you can't put it in a SKU, you can't barcode AI, and that's what people are understanding or finding it out, that it really does help in the back room, right? It's a reduction of costs, not a generator of revenue, I guess, to oversimplify. but I don't know if it ever will be. I mean, is someone going to sell AI other than the big enterprises and things like that? I don't know. And I think that's what's happening to the market, is that there isn't, an AI package. And then and the ones that were released, right? Did they really do that much on the revenue side? I don't know. I mean, did Google make $1 million or more because of Gemini or whatever they did? I don't know. I mean, how do you guys see that?
Don't know.
So I could start. So OpenAI, I read some numbers, are spending like $1 million a day on infrastructure, something like that. And that was probably old numbers, but their revenues now are pretty significant. They're still losing a ton of money, I think.
Yeah.
So it's going to be the big guys, sure. But if you narrow your focus, right? If your business doesn't need to be overly generalized and like, I don't need to classify 1,000 different document types, right? If I'm in the accounting business, I know these invoices and receipts and remittance. So, it's a very narrow set. If I'm in medical, right, it's a narrow set. So I don't need this like huge, gigantic infrastructure.
Right.
I can get a reasonable infrastructure, and you can, kind of roll your own kind of data center, right? Get a data center, get some computers, get some chips, go get an open source LLM, start with that, but then trade it with your own data anyways, because I think John mentioned like, okay, if I go use one of the commercial hyperscalers, right? Even though they agree not to snoop on your data, I don't know, I don't know, I would still question that in certain cases, right? And even with all these data breaches, right? Even if they're getting breached too. So I would kind of be able to set up my own data center, get my own chips, program my own chips. So I think the barrier to entry is big now, yes. But I think if you put all these things together, there's a great opportunity. It's going to take time. It's going to take very creative companies. But I think, somebody that has a lab or skunkworks department, a little bit of budget, but a lot of creativity, right, can overcome this. Just don't be overly broad. Don't try to solve all the world's problems. Just one of my great mentors said, think globally, but act locally. So, solve a very specific problem, and, get your LLM set up, get it ready, and then reinforce it with the new data that's always coming in. Have a good process where it's learning from it. It's we've got an exceptions workflow that's going to exceptions. You could learn from that, make the system smarter. So the revenue is not there yet, Greg. Yeah. Yep. Because they're spending tons and tons of money, like billions and billions, and trillions overall.
Hey, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, because they know this is the future, right? They're not dumb companies. They're very smart.
Takes me back to the infrastructure of roads, a network of roads in the United States, right? And when that all started, and when the government gave out millions of dollars to build all of these routes across the country, at the end of the not recession, help me out, guys.
End of the recession, it was
not a recession, the depression.
Oh, yeah,
the government put all this money into put people to work and build an infrastructure.
Dams
and that infrastructure probably took the better part of 20 years, and then probably another 20 years before it blossomed into the infrastructure of network of roads that we have today, and how it really made the United States what it is. Interesting.
Yeah, it is. Art, how would you take this tactically into the field and sell on it?
I'm going to go back to what I did with somebody just yesterday. I asked them, are they using AI in their business?
So that basic. Okay.
That it started like that. And it ended up closing with getting a demonstration. Basically, the user, luckily I had more knowledge on AI than the user did, but he was pretty interested in how it could automate many of his paper-based processes, which led to the demo And the demo is as far as I'm concerned, it's the first start with any client is getting a demonstration. And then if they're really excited about it at that point in time, if they see the value in it, then price is never an option on most occasions.
Well, Art, get real salesy here for a second. Seriously, because and again, I go back to what I started with. So do you think your talk track changed that much pre-AI to yesterday, and only by injecting AI? I mean, because again, I go back to it. We were selling the magic as deliverables back then, right?
It's the sizzle. I think the AI is the sizzle. I'm
Not that there's
sorry.
anything wrong with it. No.
Sell the sizzle, not the steak.
Yeah.
Everybody's hearing about it. Everybody's reading about it. Some people are scared. Some people aren't. Some people are dabbling in it. Some are staying away from it. Sometimes they just need that. Oh, hey, Art's using it. Well, what are you using it for? And then I get into that discussion, what I use it for and how it helps me. And then I could see their mind churning, saying, okay, well, maybe the questions start coming out. Well, could I use it for this? And could I use it for that? To me, it's more of the sizzle right now. It's the sizzle because what we've been hearing for AI better part of 18 months now. I don't think 2 years ago, a lot of us in the sales industry were talking about AI.
Nobody would. Yeah.
Right. But now it's on the news, right? It's on your Instagram feed. It's on your Facebook feed. Whatever you look at, there's some type of AI assisted technology out there.
Here's the other thing, though, Art. What you're telling them is true. You're not. Congratulations.
Well, yes.
I mean, it's not like a hype, whitewashing or greenwashing or something like that, where you're just, throwing a logo on top of a piece of junk or lipstick on a pig or something. I mean, what you're talking about, it actually does work, and it will work the way you're talking about it. That's key. I mean, we're not shucking and jiving and making things up as we go. We are selling the sizzle, but the sizzle's got real punch behind
meat to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Again,
I think that's cool.
I think in the next 18 months, we're going to be back to our digital color days of taking machines out of the field that don't have AI and connecting them with AI, because your existing machines hopefully will not connect to AI.
Well, I can imagine that's going to be, a leverage point. I mean, that's what I talked about earlier. The AI quote compatible laptops will replace all the non-AI in theory, right?
Right.
I mean, we'll see how that works, but
yeah. Interesting conversation, right? Today.
Yeah. Good stuff, guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, so we're almost coming to the witching hour, which we dedicate just about an hour at a time. But since Kevin jumped in a little bit late, Kevin, I know you don't know John, and John really doesn't know you. But if you give everybody a little bit of your background.
Yeah, I could start. So I'm a longtime imaging guy from Fujitsu. I was a product manager for their hardware, and then I was at Abbey Software House for their OCR and their NLP stuff. Their NLP stuff was top secret at that time, but now it's their text analytics. So I've been on the hardware, software, and now I started my own company, P3ID, a couple years ago. And we do these kind of solutions, digital solutions, security solutions, scanning solutions. But I'm also the marketing director over at the Twain Working Group. And this is really satisfying because, it's a nonprofit organization creating a standard between scanning devices and software applications. And the whole world's different with network devices. So I really enjoy doing that and trying to promote Twain as much as I can.
Very nice. Very nice. And John, just a little bit of background again for.
So Kevin, I've been in the copy industry for 32 years now, and started working on copiers, analog machines for a dealer actually in Pittsburgh, and worked there for 10 years. I did mostly all hardware stuff, and that's when the digital revolution came in essentially on the Ricoh side, where I worked mostly. And I found I had a knack for that connectivity part, and I liked it, and so I did that, and I left there. I went to a direct dealer or a direct company and did their document management scanning. Worked with a lot of different scan products, and I mean, eCopy was huge then.
Yeah.
X Solutions was a pretty cool product. You know, the scan stations, the legal stuff. It was very interesting. And then I went to Rico and worked there for 15 years as dealer support, and did everything software related, pretty much on hardware and machines and stuff. And it's been a pretty cool life. And now I'm here. Now I'm with work with Art at Stratus.
I won't hold
Yeah.
it against you then. No, that's great. I mean, it sounds like you really focus on the scanning side of the machines more than
Yes.
print. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anything around. I mean, it was with printing, and there's not so many solutions with printing. I mean, printing is just basically printing, but
Mhm.
we do a lot of Objective Loom, you know, Planet Press. We do a lot of AS400. We do a lot of you know, there are some solutions to that. And then working now at Stratix, most of my time is on the document management side. So we got to scan to get paper into document management. So you gotta work with that somehow. So I've done some solutions that work with and complement DocuWare. So it's always something new. And you know, AI coming in is that new thing that it's not even a flavor of the month. It's where technology is headed. I am convinced that ultimately that will touch all the technology we use.
Yep.
So
It'll be everywhere.
It'll be
Absolutely.
I agree. Greg, anything else on your end before we
No,
close?
nothing on my end, guys. Thanks very much. I love talking like this every week. And oh well, if you are interested in AI, I've got a daily report that comes out I update it almost hourly. It's called Greg Report AI, and
Cool.
you know, just check out grwalters.com, and they've got it there. It's been around for maybe 5, 6 weeks or so, and it's starting to take off. So I'm really happy with it, and it's curated, so not really original content, but with AI, anything that has anything to do with artificial intelligence, which, as we just said, is everything. And it's, you know, I cover just about everything from politics to online dating to some lady the other day created a digital husband. So
Oh boy.
I
our
know.
days are numbered, guys.
Woo!
Oh boy.
That's it.
So Kevin,
Fascinating stuff.
thanks for tuning in. We really appreciate every time you
thanks,
tune
Kevin.
in. Johnny, thanks for being my
Good meeting you,
go-to
Johnny.
guy with everything I need. And thanks for
Anytime.
tuning in and making the show possible today. I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in. Please remember to like, follow, share, and most of all, come back next week.
Cool.
Thanks, guys.
See
ya.
you, everybody.